Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order Part 1 A New Journey. Chapter 1 Bracca. If you asked someone about Bracca, they probably wouldn't recognize the name, but those who did would probably call it what it is, a junkyard planet. It was a harsh place to call home, but Cal Kestis had lived there for 5 years and hated every second of it. Cal was salvaging parts from a wrecked Star Destroyer when Prof, his only friend Bracca, interrupted his thoughts. "Listen, Cal, I don't want to upset your rhythm, but the boss wants a word," he said. Cal nodded and followed Prof. "Sure," he replied. "Could be good for us," Prof added. Their boss was a beat-up droid, a loyal yet annoying worker for his masters from the Scrapper Guild. "Here he is, Chief," Prof said. "An error has been detected on line 10. Hauler clamps are jammed." The droid filled them in. He sounded even rustier than he was. Cal wouldn't have said a droid could sound rusty, but that was his boss for you. "I need 2 workers to climb up and secure the cables." Cal shook his head. "No, that's not an easy maneuver. It's too risky." "The guild will double your pay for this shift," the droid informed. Prof got excited. "Come on, Cal, a little extra score, that couldn't hurt, huh?" Cal was reluctant, but he nodded. "Okay." "All right, let's go," Prof chuckled. Cal and Prof had to climb their way over crates that were being salvaged by other workers to reach the top of the platform. From there, they could see miles of scrapyards. Cal felt trapped. He had been waiting for a signal from the Jedi Order for 5 years, but it hadn't come. Cal had 3 basic rules to survive on Bracca. Don't stand out, accept the past, and trust no one. But his most important rule was not to reach within. He had to keep his emotions in check to avoid drawing attention to himself. While climbing, Cal and Prof saw a massive Lucrehulk battleship being brought down for scrapping, and several TIE fighters soared to the sky, spreading fear and dread to those on the surface. Prof was excited about breaking the ship, but Cal wasn't. He felt sad. How many times had he called Master T'Pol's classes boring and sometimes pointless? He had taken it all for granted. A collapsing platform cut Cal off from Prof, who barely made it to the top. Cal had to find another way to reach him, so he leapt off the platform onto a downward ramp and landed on top of a new barge. The droid noticed him. "Debark this barge immediately. You are not approved trash." But Cal chuckled, saying, "I'm trash, just not approved trash." Cal had to use his skills to swing dangerously across deep chasms on ropes and climb walls to reach Prof. They eventually reached the hauler clamps, where each one was suspended on a box, making them impossible to reach without climbing across a precipitous fall from the barge. Prof was on top of the clamps, but he couldn't do anything from there. Cal knew it was up to him to climb across to reach each hauler. Cal quickly climbed across the 3 clamps, manually overriding all of them. While working on the second clamp, one of Cal's hands slipped, but he managed to hold on. After completing the task, Cal jumped to the platform above the hauler clamps. Prof motioned for Cal to follow him, his eyes fixed on a nearby Jedi fighter. "Come, take a look at this. What a score! It's been here for what, 4 years?" Cal corrected him. 5, he said. Prof gazed at the fighter in awe, his hands on his hips. "Whoever flew this ship went down in a blaze of glory. Those Jedi, a real tragedy. I've always said they couldn't have all been traitors." Cal had often considered telling Prof the truth about his past, but the risks were too great. Revealing his identity could endanger them both. "Yeah, maybe," he replied softly. Walking up to the fighter and brushing the dust off of the emblem of the Order, he noticed the ship's astromech still inside. Prof continued to talk. "I guess today's just our lucky day. The Empire's going to get a lot of good material out of it. We risk our necks scrapping these ships from the war just so they can make new ones? This is a racket, huh? The pay was better during the Republic. Cal warned him. You should be careful what you say. Prof shrugged. Listen to me. A finder's fee like this could be your ticket off of this soggy rock. Cal was hesitant. Bracca was a terrible place, but it provided a level of anonymity that was now necessary for his survival. What makes you think I want out of here? He asked. Come on, Cal, you're young. You don't want to end up like me. Eventually, you need to move on and find your destiny. Prof chuckled. With a sigh, Cal realized Prof had a point. He couldn't stay on Bracca forever, but for now, he needed to focus on surviving and staying hidden from the Empire. Just then, the platform trembled violently as Cal and Prof stood atop it, gazing out at the endless expanse of Bracca's scrapyards. Unbeknownst to them, one of the machines holding the platform aloft had detached and flown away. Hey, we should get back down, Cal said, trying to change the subject. But Prof wasn't ready to let it go. You're not listening to me, he insisted. Suddenly, one of the cables supporting the platform snapped. Prof cried out in alarm. Cal, look out! Before either of them could react, the entire wing of the ship they were standing on broke, sending Cal hurtling toward the edge. He managed to grab onto a tangle of wires with his feet, but Prof was left clinging to a metal tube with nothing but the rain-soaked surface beneath him. Prof, you okay? Cal shouted. I can't climb up, he yelled, his grip slipping. Cal urged him to hold on, but it was too late. Prof lost his grip and fell towards the gaping mouth of the Idris Maw, a fearsome creature that devoured anything in its path. Without thinking, Cal reached out with the force and managed to freeze Prof in midair just before he would have been swallowed by the creature. With a droid-piloted platform beneath him, Cal released his grip and watched as Prof tumbled onto the platform. But a piece of debris from the crumbling ship's wing fell on top of it, pinning him down. Cal raced to the piloting station and tossed the droid's body aside, taking control of the platform himself. As they careened wildly through the scrapyards, one of Idris Maw's tentacles slammed onto the platform, sending them off course. This thing's barely flying. Hold on, Cal shouted as he struggled to keep the platform in the air. Finally, with a jarring crash, they landed safely on the surface of Bracca. Cal hurried over to help Prof, lifting the heavy I-beam that was pinning him down. Prof, you all right? He asked. Prof nodded, catching his breath. As they made their way toward the train that would take them back to the quarters, Prof couldn't help but be confused and awed by what he had witnessed. What was that back there? Was that you? That was the Force, wasn't it? He asked. Cal sighed, his frustration at the situation boiling over. Just forget what you saw, okay? Please, trust me. But Prof couldn't let it go. There are bounties on people like you, he warned. I know, Cal said softly, realizing the gravity of the situation. We need to be careful. As they boarded the train and made their way back to their quarters, the events of the day hung heavy over them. But Cal couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming, something that would change the course of his life forever. Cal and Prof sat in silence inside the dimly lit train. The atmosphere tense. Cal absent-mindedly scratched the scar on his face, his mind still reeling from what had just happened. Prof looked at him, concern etched on his face. You okay? Cal snapped out of his thoughts. Good. Yeah. You? Yeah. Hey, Cal, I've been working with you some time now. I've never seen you do anything like that before. We've been through some hell together, so I know the risk you took for me. I don't know how to repay you. Don't mention it, Cal said firmly. Oh, you don't have to worry about me, but this place, it's not safe. Maybe you should, disappear. Just gotta head back to my place and grab my bag. Tabbers owes me a favor, said Cal. Prof thought about the name. I heard he was up on, Nar Shaddaa. Yeah. You won't be seeing me for a while, Prof. Prof understood the danger of the situation Cal had gotten himself into. At least, if the kid escaped Braca, there was a chance he would start a new life in a better place. Finally, he nodded. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Cal. Cal hadn't been able to relax since the incident. Fortunately, it had happened with Prof, whom he knew he could trust, so he let down his guard for the moment, let his mind drift off, and eventually, he fell asleep. When he woke up, Prof was nowhere to be seen. Cal was confused. Why would Prof walk away like this? Was he hiding something? Prof, Cal called out, seeing him walking towards the back of the train. There was no answer, and the young man decided to follow him. Prof, wait up! Where are you going? Cal moved between each compartment of the train that left the salvage sites with the workers from his shift. It was usually packed with workers. This time, however, the further Cal walked, the fewer people the cars had. After a few of them, it was just him and Prof. At least until his friend disappeared behind a final door. Cal tried to open it several times, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, the sounds of the train faded away, and once he turned away from the locked door, he realized he was no longer inside the train. He was standing in a Star Destroyer's corridor. Cal was completely disoriented. What was happening? The white, sterile walls and floor of the hallway only made it worse for his already loudly beating heart. The alarm blared and the hallway was filled with red lights. Several aperture doors closed in front of him. He reached out with a force, opening the first door in front of him. If the hallway had made his heart race, what he saw on the other side of that door made his heart skip a beat. He fell to the floor in shock. It was his old master. The towering Lasat moved toward him with an outstretched hand. Jaro Tapal used the force to lift Cal off the ground, suspending him in the air in front of him. Apprentice, the deep voice of Jaro echoed on the walls. Mark well and listen. Master, Cal managed to sputter out, feeling overwhelmed by the suddenness of the situation. Master Tapal ignored Cal. Trust only in the Force. With that, the Master dropped the Padawan on the ground. The force of the impact jolted Cal out of his reverie. He wasn't sure whether it was a dream or a vision that he had just experienced. As he opened his eyes, he felt relieved to see Prof beside him. However, his relief was short-lived when he realized the train had come to a halt. Train is stopped, Cal said, his voice tinged with apprehension. Prof confirmed his fears. Yeah, something's going on. The doors of their carriage slid open, revealing two stormtroopers with blasters drawn. The troopers demanded that everyone show their identification and exit the train. Prof whispered to Cal, "It's probably just another routine contraband inspection." But Cal's gut feeling told him otherwise. His dream or vision seemed to be a forewarning that this was no ordinary inspection. As Cal and Prof exited the train along with the other passengers, they saw unfamiliar troopers standing outside. The black armored troopers with red visors on their helmets were shaped differently than the normal stormtroopers. Cal heard the familiar sound of a TIE engine and looked up to see a TIE landing near them, and a black Imperial shuttle emerging as well. A slim woman in black clothes stepped out of the TIE fighter, followed by a larger figure in similar attire walking towards them. The figure stopped once they reached the workers, and the slim woman asked out loud, "Is this all of them?" One perched trooper answered her immediately. "Yes, second sister." She continued gazing at them. her own face covered by a mask. "We seek a dangerous fugitive. This is no common anarchist, but a devotee of the treasonous Jedi Order. Failure to turn over this traitor will result in a charge of sedition. Turn yourself in, or everyone present shall face summary execution." The dark troopers aimed their weapons at the scrap workers to emphasize the threat. It had an effect, since only then the workers realized the severity of what was happening. Prof stepped forward, saying, I think it's time someone came forward." Cal reached out to stop him, but Prof continued. I've been working on this heap a long time, way before the war. We refit and rebuilt ships, best in the galaxy. Then came the Empire, and engineers became scrappers, and the workers just started getting worked. We all know the truth. We're just too afraid to say it, Prof said, turning to face the workers. The second sister stood behind him, menacingly silent. To the Empire, we're all expendable. Yes, you are, said the second sister without hesitation. She ignited her red lightsaber and pushed it through Prof's chest. No, Cal cried out, igniting his own blue lightsaber he had hidden beneath his poncho. The second sister parried Cal's strike with ease, saying, Look at this, a lightsaber. With a powerful force push, the second sister threw Cal off balance and sent him flying into the arms of the second dark figure. She held the young human by the neck and lifted him up over the edge of the cliff they were standing on. I found the Jedi, she said as she let go of Cal, causing him to land on a moving train. The landing hurt, but he was alive. Cal's relief was short-lived as he noticed two stormtroopers approaching him from the front. They had heard him fall and turned around to investigate. Hold on. Don't move. How'd you get here? One of the stormtroopers yelled at him. Cal raised his hand in front of him, holding his lightsaber out of sight by his side, tightly in his grip. Easy now, Cal replied cautiously. The stormtrooper spoke up. Got a stowaway. The first stormtrooper silenced him. Quiet. Cal knew he had to act quickly. He ignited his lightsaber and struck down the two stormtroopers, determined to get off that train. He then noticed that he was on a cargo train, which meant he was likely surrounded by troopers. Well, now that the secret is out, I can use this, he thought to himself, looking at the blue humming of his lightsaber. He had not used it for 5 years now, but the skills Master T'Pol had taught him slowly returned as he fought his way through the train. He noticed that his connection with the Force was damaged, just like when he had frozen Prof. As he approached the end of the train, an Imperial pursuit speeder began firing at him. Cal tried to escape by jumping onto the next car, but it blew the couplings out. The speeder then hovered in the air victorious in front of him. Suddenly, a long, thin ship raced by the train, blasting the Imperial vehicle out of the sky. The starship's door opened up, revealing a woman behind it. We're here to help, she cried. Who are you? Cal shouted back. No time. Keep moving. We'll pick you up when we can. The door closed and the ship sped away, leaving Cal alone. However, the second sister's TIE interceptor appeared in the sky, forcing Cal to keep fighting his way through the train as the two ships battled above him. Just as Cal reached the end of the train, the familiar Imperial shuttle flew right overhead, blasting the train car Cal was standing on. Oh, this can't be good, Cal said, sliding off the car. The long starship circled around and tried to catch him before he ran out of train. Jump, now! Shouted the woman. Cal leapt off, barely making it to the ramp. Just as he was about to lift himself up, the second sister's interceptor shot at the ship, sending Cal tumbling away. He barely survived by holding on to a hovering droid that slowly let him fall on top of a platform. The second sister's TIE landed a few meters ahead of him. Going somewhere? She asked. igniting only one of the blades of her dual lightsaber. Cal followed her example, igniting his own, and positioned himself in a defensive stance. For the first time, he felt the energy radiating from her. Darkness, rage, cold. "I recognize that stance," the sister said. "Perhaps you've had some training after all. Who was your master, Padawan? Someone I killed, perhaps?" The dark figure charged forward with her blade, but Cal was able to block. However, as she continued to strike confidently, it was evident that they were not fighting. Instead, the sister was toying with the Padawan, who was obviously and utterly outmatched. With ease, the dark silhouette charged, blocked, and counterattacked Cal. The young Jedi was about to be defeated and cut in half when the elongated ship emerged, letting loose a salvo of laser fire that separated the second sister from Cal, thus buying him more time to escape. Cal ran to the ship, the woman pulling him inside. She started firing at the dark figure, who blocked and deflected each bolt with incredible ease and began sprinting toward the ship. More and more desperate, the woman kept shooting faster and faster, but the sister effortlessly dodged or blocked her attacks. "Captain!" the woman shouted at the bridge. The door began to close, and as it did, the second sister leapt into the air, ready to strike the ship. The door closed in time, but a red gash was immediately struck through it. Cal, who still had his lightsaber ignited, and the woman ran to the cockpit, where a four-armed Latero was flying the ship. Abruptly, the second sister landed in front of the cockpit window. She reached out with a force, disrupting the Latero's piloting. The ship began to swing wildly, and when it seemed they were going to crash onto the surface of the cursed junkyard planet, a particularly brutal twist jerked the sister off the ship, sending her flying off. Panicked but with regained control, the Latero was able to reach the outer atmosphere and made the jump into hyperspace. The Latero captain looked over his shoulder at Cal. After making the jump, he noticed Cal's ignited lightsaber. "Okay, shut that thing off and grab some seat." Cal took a deep breath, and his gaze focused on the familiar but almost forgotten blue colors of hyperspace. They were safe. For now. He turned his lightsaber off. "Thanks for the help. Who are you people?" The woman spoke first. "My name is Sarah Junda. This is my captain, Grease Tritus." "How you doing?" the Latero asked playfully. "Yeah, the Mantis is my ship, but you better pay attention to this lady over here." He was pointing at Sarah. "So," she asked, "who are you?" "Cal. Kestis." "Who was that back there?" "An Imperial Inquisitor," Sarah explained. "She's a Force user hunting down Jedi survivors, and now that she knows who you are, she will not stop until she destroys you." "How do you know so much? Why'd you help me?" Cal asked. "We track Imperial communications. We heard the Inquisitors were heading to Braca, so we made our move." "Oh yeah?" Cal was suspicious. "What's the bounty on Jedi these days anyways?" "That's gratitude for you," Grease chuckled. "Look, I get it. You've been surviving on your own for so long that it's impossible to trust anyone. It's what's kept you alive. But this is about something bigger than just surviving." "Like what?" Cal asked. "Like rebuilding the Jedi Order." "You two? Anybody else?" Cal asked. "Oh, we're not good enough for you?" Grease asked sarcastically, and what Cal was beginning to understand was the entire mood range of the Latero. "The Jedi Council?" he asked Sarah. "They're gone." "Oh, so I'm all you've got," Cal said, finally understanding they needed him. Sarah turned to Grease. "Captain, set course for Bogano." "Aye, aye," he answered, walking back to the bridge. "In the meantime," Sarah said, "try and relax. Go. You're safe. For now." Cal nodded and wandered around the mantis, trying to process everything that had happened in the past few hours alone. Eventually, he drifted off. In his dream, he heard the echoes of some of Prof's last words before almost getting eaten by Idris Maul. You gotta move on. Live your life. Find your destiny. Thank you for listening to the Sleepy Gamer Podcast's novelized retelling of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing with others. Donations can also be sent to the hashtag BlaneFJ, that's BLANEFJ. But most importantly, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and tune in next week for another chapter.